Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keith in the studios of our flagship stations 89.3 WBLD and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, on the radio in Bloomfield Hills, 88.1 WBFH, The Biff on TV, also on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99 in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the village of Franklin on Birmingham area municipal access. And online, civiccentertv.com, our watch live link on the web at the top of the page on your web browser or the left side on your mobile phone and some other devices like tablets, or a small player at the top right of our homepage on our web browser as well. Also, facebook.com/civiccentertv, facebook.com/lakesfm. Those are our Facebook pages where we're also broadcasting live today, as we have been all week from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And also joining me, as always, from her home studio in Keego Harbor is Ronnie Dahl.
Tyler, how's it going?
Going pretty well. How are you, Ronnie?
I will say, so it's been like such a back and forth with us,
Yes.
like being at home, not being at home. I'm not going to lie. I don't mind working from home because while we're lucky enough to be pretty casual at work, I don't have to worry about what I'm wearing on the bottom. So today's sweatpants, some days it's gym shorts, and usually slippers.
Very nice. Very fun. Not the case here. It's still very professional. Just in case anybody comes to the building, it's like, well, listen, we have a policy here of professional from the top up, and otherwise, just whatever. Just keep it casual. Shorts, sweatpants, whatever you need to be. Now, it's the same thing here in the studio. But that is one of the benefits of people being at home. Do what's comfortable, but be professional just for your Zoom framing or your other virtual communications framing and. Other than that, you're comfortable, you're getting your work done, still being productive.
So with that, when we talk about Zoom, the one thing that being in the studio, you don't have to worry about is what's in your background.
Yeah.
And so usually I have flowers, but I haven't replaced them this week, so they're all dead. So I put my shamrocks, which by the way, is still alive since March. So if you know me, that's impressive, but it is starting to die, and there's a lot of yellow spots and dead leaves coming in. So sometimes you got to switch up the back, because I will tell you, Tyler, people made fun of me at the beginning of this pandemic because I remember saying, oh my God, all I care about is I'm obsessed about what people have in their backgrounds of all their Zoom videos. And by the way, for anyone in the media, when you put the Emmys behind you, it is so cheesy. Like, you have gone down 10 points in my book, because one thing I don't think the public understands about the Emmys, how it works, it used to be that the station that you work for or the organization that you work for would pay for your submissions. Well, that's been no longer the case with at least the media side of the house, right? For years. So some people, I'm not going to mention names, some people study these categories and they know which ones are not going to get a lot of submissions. And so they'll find a story that could maybe fit into that category, or they flood the market, or they flood the categories as well. And so sometimes because the cost is very expensive, per submission. And a lot of times as the reporter, as the talent, you're also submitting not only for you, but also maybe for the videographer, photographer that was a part of the story as well. So it can get very costly, plus your fees into the organization. So when I look at some of these people that have like 10 Emmys behind them, I'm like, that cost you about $10,000. Was it worth it? So just kind of a thing. So, but people think it looks so impressive. I'm telling you, it's not impressive. The better awards are the ones that come from the community.
Yeah, we recently here at Civic Center TV submitted awards to NATOA, which is a national organization for community and government television programming, like our station over here. So I'll make sure that if and when we do win one of those awards, I don't end up putting a shelf back here and putting them on in the background over by. So we won't put it on the desk. We'll keep it in the office away from everything else, just so that we are staying consistent with our views on the ideal Zoom background for television.
Well, it's one thing too if your organization
Right.
submits it, right? And
It's,
I'm
it's
not
like,
against
oh, look
awards.
at me, I'm an Emmy winner. Like, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
quite that, right?
And I'm here to tell you, I'm not against awards, but
No.
I just refuse to play the game and be able to say an Emmy award-winning journalist, hey, how about I got more stuff completed and fixed in the city of Detroit than any other reporter in the last 20 years.
It's about impact. It's about impact ultimately. Right.
So one thing you won't find, although I did have my Dancing with the Stars globe up there last week, just when we were talking about it. But again, community awards to me mean so much more than any type of Emmy award, just so people understand when they see them in the background, that's usually what's happening. So people are paying a lot of money to try to win that award.
Yeah, it's much like the Oscars for movies. There's a lot going on in the background with those awards, more than just, hey, you're doing great work, here's an award. So there's always something more going on with those kinds of major awards like that, where there are a lot of people involved, a lot of organizations, and a lot of money.
So with that also, Tyler, I really, if we jump into the first headline of the day, I've been watching a few documentaries. I don't know if anyone has been catching up with on Netflix. I believe it's called Unnatural Selection. Have you been watching it at all?
I have not. I've not seen it. I actually haven't heard of it.
So it really is kind of unsettling, but it's looking at not just the DNA and what's happening with CRISPR now that it is out, but also talking about biohackers. And one of the things that they're trying to say and do is that we no longer have to put the power in the hands of the pharmaceutical companies. And one of those being, they talked about when some of the scientists came up with the polio vaccine, they did not patent it. They put it out for the public, for the greater good of the public. Mm-hmm. So now what we have been seeing, because this has been an issue with the COVID-19 vaccines, because we know the wealthier countries develop them, and some of the poorer nations are really having a big problem with trying to get enough of the vaccine. So the US is now backing the waiving of the intellectual property rules on the COVID vaccine. So the Biden administration on Wednesday joined calls for more sharing of the technology based on COVID-19 vaccines to help speed up the end of the pandemic, a shift that puts the US alongside many in the developing world who want rich countries to do more to get doses to the needy. So the U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai announced the government's position amid World Trade Organization talks about a possible temporary waiver of its protections that would allow more manufacturers to produce the life-saving vaccines. The administration believes strongly in intellectual property protections, but in service of ending this pandemic, supports the waiver of those protections for COVID-19 vaccines. That's what Tai said in a statement. However, keep in mind, she also cautioned that it would take time to reach the required global consensus to waive the protections under the World Trade Organization's rules. And US officials said probably won't have an immediate effect on the global supply of the COVID-19 shots. So one argument against sharing the intellectual property had to do with there are only so many raw materials. And so if you open it up, there is still going to be a supply and demand issue to get the vaccines developed. So you kind of see both ways of this, but keep in mind too, a lot of times, especially when it comes to COVID, the research is backed by the government, which is our tax dollars.
Right. And in this case, looking at where we're at in the pandemic, where we've already seen a number of variants pop up that are more contagious, in some cases have more severe symptoms than the novel coronavirus we began this pandemic with, you got to be thinking, especially at this point where the U.S. is as far along in the vaccination process as it is, how are we going to help the rest of the world get through this as well? Because if you don't, you're in a situation where if the vaccine isn't getting to 70% plus of the entire world population, and this novel coronavirus continues to sit out there, continues to vary, and at some point could potentially, and nothing is 100% certain in this case that anyone in the scientific community, the medical community, has said or definitively pointed out yet. But theoretically, a variant could arise that's stronger than one of our vaccines, and a few years down the line, we could be right back where we were. So that's a big concern, and why the argument for opening up this intellectual property to being open to the rest of the world, much like you mentioned the polio vaccine. At the same time, there are those issues with supply and demand. We saw that as a major issue earlier on in the pandemic in producing PPE. So there's got to be a balance there. My biggest question would be, if it's going to take an ample amount of time to go through the World Trade Organization protocols to get this intellectual property released to the rest of the world, why not start that process a little bit earlier? And while you're going through that longer process of getting that out to the entire world, during that time, organize what needs to be organized in order to mitigate the supply and demand issue, so that we can still get the vaccine to the rest of the world, not just the wealthier countries, but not run into major issues, and work together as a world population.
Well, on top of that too, we're seeing the devastating images that are coming out of India right now. It is heartbreaking what you're seeing going on in some of the other foreign countries. And there was one report that said some states are administering more COVID-19 vaccines than Africa. And so you have to understand that if we've learned anything because of COVID-19, it's that we're all in this together. Because we know that it is pretty much, confirmed that this did start in China. But look how interconnected we are and how quickly it grew into a pandemic. So we really need some of these pharmaceutical companies to step up and if we're all getting the vaccine to be a part of our community and to make our community better, then I think the least they can do is also supply, because we know they're making billions off of this. I mean, come on, the government, what they're paying these pharmaceutical companies with our tax dollars, be a good company and do it in the greater good for the community and humanity, really.
Yeah, and if I'm the U.S. government too, if I'm a Biden administration and you have this, and you have any sort of hesitancy, especially major hesitancy from Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, whomever it may be, or all of the above, to release that intellectual property because it's their product, so to speak, despite them getting billions of dollars from the government to develop that product, you got to kind of question then, did you actually do this for the greater good of the public, much like we saw before with previous pandemics and what we saw before with polio and other diseases that we eradicated by way of vaccine, or did you do this specifically for the profit? And if it was more so the latter, that's the kind of thing that maybe in the future we need to reconsider whether or not you get government contracts, because clearly we know where your priorities are.
Hey, so graduation season is here right now in the state of Michigan. A split Michigan legislature voted Wednesday to exempt high school graduation ceremonies from the state's order that restricts crowd sizes due to the coronavirus pandemic. Republicans who control the Senate and the House supported the bills that lawmakers could finalize next week, while all but a few Democrats opposed them. But there were some that supported it. Most local school boards have done a good job of mitigating the risk of COVID. We should trust them to safely manage their own graduation. That's according to Republican Senator Jim Runstad, who's been with us here on the show several times. He, of course, represents Oakland County's White Lake Township and the surrounding area. So the risk of the coronavirus spreading outdoors is low, he said, contending that students and their families deserve this high school memory. So last week, the State Department of Health and Human Services quietly issued guidance about high school end of the year events such as graduations and proms. State recommended that in-person events be held outside, not indoors, and that schools require all students, staff, volunteers, and other attendees to test negative within 24 or 72 hours of the event, depending on the type of test. The use of cohorts and pods also encouraged for social events such as proms and year-end parties. State asked school officials to consider shortening the length of events as well and scheduling students by staggering the time slots. Interesting. I don't think the governor's going to sign off on it, though.
Yeah, I highly doubt the governor signs off on this, just simply because of the divide between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the state being so severe, and this being mostly from the Republican side in the Republican-led Michigan legislature. That being said, a lot of what we're seeing in this proposal here, or this recommendation here for outdoor events, for cohorting and so on, is a lot of what we saw in the planning of many graduations outdoors and drive-through graduations and so on and so forth last year around this time as well. I know in the case of West Bloomfield, we were working with them for a while on planning a graduation ceremony that was going to be on their football field at Lakers Stadium in cohorts. I think it was three or four different heats, so to speak, of students that would be coming through there at various times throughout the day. Of course, that then was changed to a drive-through graduation due to increase in COVID cases, and that was lit and because of inclement weather more than anything else. But it's a system that's been planned out by these schools. They've already gone through the process of making those plans previously, and it's something that I think they'd be comfortable going through with this year, especially as we get another month or two out and toward these graduations where we have more people being vaccinated. I think it's something that could very well be considered. That being said, don't see a high chance of there being a lot of support from within both sides of the aisle on this issue. I think it's going to definitely continue to be a one-sided thing from the legislature.
So we know the colleges, most of them have already had their graduations. MSU did have something
Yes.
in person. So the University of Michigan, they had theirs outdoors, but only the students were allowed at the ceremony. And it was at the big house, huge, massive stadium. Everyone else was given a link to watch. We talked about it earlier. I said, my niece, she graduated. I got through 5 minutes. I was like, whatever. Okay, done. Happy graduation. But the good news with all of this, our daily case average and hospitalizations are less than 3,000 for the first time since March. Michigan reported 2,589 new coronavirus cases, 42 additional deaths on Wednesday. State is averaging now just under 3,000 new COVID-19 cases per day, 67 new deaths per day over the last week. Keep in mind, though, when we're looking at the deaths, a lot of them also have an asterisk to indicate that they happened previously. This is the 16th straight reported day where the 7-day case average decreased and is the lowest average since March 23rd. It's also the first time the 7-day case average was less than 3,000 since late March. So we're going in the right direction. 78 of Michigan's 83 counties reported new cases. Wayne County led new cases with 484, Macomb 264, Oakland 248. So the good news is we are starting to see some of the numbers decrease here in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, and that decrease continues to look to be more consistent and increasingly going down as time goes on, which is also good news. Lowest case numbers we've seen since March, coming in on the Wednesday, May 5th data that we have here on the website at civiccentertv.com, and that's exactly the trend that we were hoping to see. A lot of caution came out of this recent surge in different ways than we've seen before, and yet again, Michigan's been able to, hopefully, this is us prevailing beyond that as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, of course, got back on the market, that single dose vaccine, and the vaccination process here across the state at mass vaccination sites and individual sites that are taking walk-ins rather than appointments in many cases continues on. So hopefully this is good news, and the lowering cases combined with the vaccination efforts continue to push us forward toward a resolution to this pandemic here in Michigan and the U.S. and the world.
So, of course, you can get the latest headlines. Go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. We have a good lineup here for you today. When we come back, we're going to be talking with the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. And then also in the 10 o'clock hour, one of the students over at Oakland University. We'll be talking to her about a huge award that she won that is connected to the Department of Defense. That's all coming up in the 10 o'clock hour of the Megacast.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/one small step. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in my home studios. Mr. Tyler Keefe holding things down back there in West Bloomfield, and we always appreciate his work to get the show on the air each and every day. So much focus throughout the pandemic has been on our restaurants, but they are back open, but still in a limited capacity. However, there's a little bit of a shift. And for the first time, the governor is really kind of putting a metric out there that we can all see as to what it's going to take to get back to normal. To talk more, let's bring in John McNamara. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. John, by the way, thank you so much for always giving us time throughout this pandemic, because you're such an important voice for all of the Michigan restaurants and lodging. We should mention the hotels are a part of this as well. And so we always appreciate your time.
No, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So give us an update. We know that the governor came out with her, vaccination to normal plan. Your thoughts?
So we were thrilled to, finally have a plan in place of, once you get to this step, this step, this is what happens. So, in the short term, the focus is going to be, helping out in any way that we can to encourage people to go out and get their shot. If it's Johnson & Johnson, you're one and done. If it's Pfizer or Moderna, obviously it's 2 with some time in between. But, the goal right now is vaccines in arms as quickly and as often as possible, because if we don't get to 70, which is sort of the magic number to go back to completely normal, then we're sort of in this, purgatory state of, well, we're stuck at 66, 67, then what happens? Because, there are some legitimate reasons why people, especially younger people between 20 and 30, are choosing not to get vaccinated. And
we also know that age group is a good portion of the people that work in the restaurant and lodging industry.
Yep. It is. And it's, also the industry is highly transient as well. So, they might work at 2 or 3 different places, and they might stay somewhere Monday through Wednesday and then work somewhere else in the weekend and stay there. So, we are seeing lots of individual restaurants incentivizing to get vaccines. There's one locally here that gave every team member there $100 after they showed their vaccination card. So we're starting to see the industry incentivize going out and getting the vaccine.
So with that, John McNamara with us here on the Megacast. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. If I can talk for just a minute, I was on the MyOSHA website a little bit earlier today because we do know that they were really kind of the enforcement arm of the COVID-19 rules and regulations throughout the pandemic for the restaurants and businesses. They were the ones that so many people were afraid of. We know that maybe the health department came in, but to lose your liquor license, that can devastate you. You could close down. So one thing I've noticed though is they do not seem to be really citing businesses over the past month or so. I think I saw a couple of small citations in the month of March. Nothing was listed on their dashboard because they came out with a dashboard for people to kind of follow along where businesses were. What are you hearing from people on your side of the industry?
From our side, we're hearing that so far, I mean, recently, since the reopening and since we avoided a third shutdown and since the weather has gotten better, that the attitude of MyOSHA and health departments have mostly been to avoid issues. Not that they haven't been there, but they've been more helpful in saying, hey, let's do this instead of that, or change this or change that, and not citing violations. And realizing that it's been a hard 14 months for this industry, and it's going to be a hard 5 or 6 more, especially with the massive labor shortage. And then in the back of every business owner's mind right now is what happens if we don't get to 70%, which is a concern. But for right now, we're very happy that the plan is out there, and we're going to do everything that this association can to help encourage people go out and get their shot, and then hopefully just get back to normal.
We have other states, New York, New Jersey, they've taken a different approach in that they're saying, hey, I think it's going to be May 18th. The city and the state can reopen again.
Yep.
Do you think that if we don't reach that 70% number that the governor has set, that maybe there could be enough pressure for her, especially if all of our neighboring states and other states remove the mandates and open back up, that she'll do so as well? Or you don't have a crystal ball? We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't, I think anyone will realize and accept the fact that if 45 other states are fully open and there's 4 or 5 lagging behind, I think there's going to be an immense amount of pressure, not only from internally in the state of Michigan, but probably from even across the country of let's just get this country back open. And people need to feel safe. People need to know that it's safe to go out and do what you used to do, pre-COVID. And if there are still states that lock down, that I think it still puts that thought in people's minds of, well, why are we open and they aren't? Is there something that something that people they don't know that we don't? So I really hope that President Biden is correct and that by July 4th, we're really, really close to 70%. I think that'd be great. I think it'd be especially great for Northern Michigan, who had a really tough time last season and is in danger of having another tough time this season, especially on the meeting, wedding, and event side. I talk to hotels every day who say, I had 3 weddings cancel for July because I can't guarantee them that they can do this, this, and this, but they can do it in Ohio, they can do it in Indiana, they can do it in Wisconsin. So that's where they're going. So, we really hope we get there. We're doing everything we can to assist to get there. But this really is on the general public to go out, and if they haven't gotten their vaccine, maybe do some general education of the benefits of it, and then realize that you really are helping Michigan and the rest of the country come back by getting that shot.
Yeah, I'm thinking about people that try to plan a wedding, and so much goes into it, and so much expense goes into it. And when you're planning a wedding and you don't know what's going to happen or how many people you can have.
Yep.
It's hard.
It is. I have a very good friend who's supposed to get married in Saugatuck in June this year. And I probably talk to him every other day. And he's like, what do you know? What do you know? He's like, his fiance and wife to be is very, very nervous that, there's all these people coming in, planning to come in from out of state. and they've ordered this and put that deposit down, and they're worried they might have to start calling people and saying, hey, we love you, but can't do it.
Can you just send the gift and maybe money?
Right. Yeah. We'll have a link. You can watch it.
So with that, John McNamara, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, you touched on it earlier, the staffing shortage.
Yes.
As businesses start to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, they're hit by a staffing shortage. And we're seeing right now businesses that are having to reduce their hours because they simply don't have enough employees. How long do you anticipate that's going to continue?
I think probably until September, because that's when the extended unemployment benefits run out. But this is not just mom and pops that this is hitting. It's hitting them harder because they're smaller business operators. But most Chipotles in the state of Michigan are not open for dinner simply because they don't have the staff. I talked to a member yesterday who operates 7 different properties. He had 150 interviews scheduled and had 6 people show up because they can forward that email that says they're looking for work and they have the interview, but then there's no follow-up of did they show up or not. So they're fulfilling their duty and saying, well, I booked an interview, but they're just not showing up. So that, and then the supply chain of food right now is absolutely crazy. You saw a local place here who had to take their buffalo wings off the menu simply because they couldn't get a consistent supply, and those prices have skyrocketed so much. That's gone. So, we're hopeful. We're glad we have a plan, but it's still going to be a very tough 4 or 5 months for this industry. And then, for that, the supply chain is going to take some time to recover as well.
Wow, there are so many facets that go into running a business, when you're looking at that, the staffing, and then on top of the staffing, it's the supply chain, like you just mentioned. So with that too, we should remind people when they do go out, be patient and be kind, because I've seen even kind of in my world where some people are being a little bit less than nice because service is taking longer.
Yeah, and that your server is, I'm not kidding, your server is probably on their 5th or 6th double. They're all, a lot of servers are working open to close 6-7 days a week, just to keep their job and help, their boss or their business owner that they've worked for a while keep the doors open. But yeah, if you go out, show some dignity, show some grace, and understand that everyone's doing the best they can. But there are businesses who are offering people $2,000 signing bonuses right now, and they still can't get people.
Wow. It's just, how did we get here as America?
Right.
John McNamara, Vice President, Government Affairs with the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. So if I can ask a question, because I do know more and more as people are going out. I was at a restaurant the other day and I overheard someone ask the server, have you been vaccinated? What is the conversation in your arena and with some of the business owners, and how to guide their staff members to answer that question? Or do you think this is going to become part of a marketing plan eventually to say our staff is vaccinated?
I think it will become part of a marketing plan of, our staff is, I think you're going to see on marquees, open, staff fully vaccinated. Now it's tough to do that. The COVID-19 vaccine is not FDA approved, so it cannot be mandated by that. But you saw U of M and MSU both have said, if you want to live in the dorms, you're getting your vaccine. Obviously, incoming freshmen have to get the meningitis shot, before moving the dorms. So I think it will be part of a marketing campaign. And I think what's really going to do it for staff and probably for the general public is some type of incentive of, okay, if you go do this, we'll give you the day off and $100 to go get your shot, or we'll do this and get your shot. Now, getting people a day off right now is hard just because staffing is so short. But hopefully, again, people will just keep realizing that the vaccine is safe, and it's the only way we're going to get back to normal right now.
So, we've talked a lot about the restaurants, but if we can shift a little bit to the hotel industry.
Sure.
Because it does seem like services like Airbnb, they're exploding right now. they can't get enough properties to rent out, because it does appear as more families or individuals tend to feel more comfortable going into like a private home, not being around other people. Do you anticipate that's going to continue to be a hamper for the hotel industry?
So the short-term rentals were an issue before this, and then it's largely a tax issue. And I mean, that's something that there's legislation moving on to work to address that. But I think eventually people will, especially as business travel picks back up, people will continue to go to hotels. I mean, are there advantages to Airbnb? Sure, but there are also massive advantages to hotels that Airbnbs don't offer, such as a business center, a workout room, or a pool, or things like that. And also usually, hotels and banquet centers are closer to city centers, where Airbnb, you might be able to get someone's apartment for the weekend, but if you want a house or something like that, you're probably farther out of town, and you can't walk to everything like you could from a hotel. But hotels have been hit just as hard, if not harder, throughout this, and their comeback is going to be just as tough.
Well, we know for the state of Michigan, the travel industry and the hotel business is such a vital part of our bottom line. We need to continue to support them as well. And I kind of feel like they've been lost in the mix of this conversation, because we've had so much of a focus on the restaurants, because that's something we all take advantage of every day. Whereas the hotels, it's more if you're traveling or something of that nature.
It is, but it's also because, and you're exactly right, but it's also because the hotels were never forced to close. Hotels have been open throughout this now. They've been hovering at between 10 to 25% occupancy if they're lucky. So they've been open, but when no one's traveling for business and leisure travel is severely hampered, if not completely banned, then it's hard for them as well. So tough road for them as well. But hopefully, this summer, as it gets nicer out and people are getting their vaccines, it will be a very vibrant tourism season, and hopefully, we can see more, increased capacity at Tiger Stadium, and people continue to be out in downtown Detroit, and events in downtown Grand Rapids, and then obviously, northern Michigan is everyone's favorite place to be in the summer. So hopefully, it's a great season for them as well.
With that too, John, before we let you go, just another minute or two with you here on the show. The Small Business Association, the grants were made available starting this week. We know in previous programs, it was really hard to tap into some of this money, especially for some of our smaller businesses. Do you anticipate this is going to be enough to help keep some of the doors open for some of our restaurants?
We really appreciate the Restaurant Recovery Fund. However, right now, I think it's estimated between 15 and 20% of the people that applied will be able to receive some type of funding for this. They got well over 100,000 applications for, and $28.6 billion is a staggering amount of money, but in the big picture for this issue, it's not. They were sending out emails before the application went live Monday at noon that this money, that's simply not going to be enough.
And that's what's so hard, is because it's so frustrating, especially I think more so for the mom and pops, because they don't have accountants that can go on and try to help them navigate. So they're doing this while they're trying to run a business. You wonder too, after this pandemic, how many of these small business owners are going to say, we're done. It's just not worth it.
No, I think you're going to see that a lot. And you're seeing this sometimes, with multi-generational family restaurants of the third generation is just sort of saying, man, grandma and grandpa built this business. Mom and dad kept it going. I love it. But, this has scared me so much that, no one ever wants to do this again. I hope no one ever has to do this again. But yeah, we will see. And it's going to be a very interesting comeback for this industry. And, this industry was the first shut down. It's probably going to be the last to be fully integrated. And it's going to be the longest comeback.
So with that, John, any last minute words of advice or nuggets of information you want to share before we say goodbye today?
I would just reiterate that if you go out, staff is working as hard as they can. Owners are working as hard as they can. So, be patient and just be glad you're able to be out.
Exactly. Well, John, we always appreciate your time. We know that you guys have been working around the clock to try to help so many of these businesses here in the state of Michigan. John McNamara, he is the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. You can follow the association on social media to keep up to date with some of the changes. John, again, thank you as always for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be talking with a student over at Oakland University who won a very, very impressive scholarship and what it means possibly for you. That's coming up next on the Megacast.
In times like these, we have to believe in each other.
And we believe that you'll do the right thing
when it comes to stopping the spread of COVID.
Follow the 3 W's.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Watch your distance.
And when it's your turn to get the vaccine, take your shot.
It all comes down to the golden rule.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
We're so close, Michigan.
We can do this together.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
That you're taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. You can always catch Tyler and myself live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon, Civic Center TV, Birmingham area municipal access, as well as Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can listen to us on the radio as well, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. And then we are also live streaming today's edition of the show on our Facebook page. This is a tough time for so many college students between remote learning and even struggling to get internships in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. But one student at Oakland University is thriving throughout the crisis. Bianca Vitale, she's a student at Oakland University, but also you are the winner of the SMART Award Scholarship. Before we get more into that, because it's fascinating. It really is fascinating, the SMART Scholarship, what it is and the program behind it. But can we just start off, Bianca? How are you doing throughout the crisis?
I'm doing all right. It was a hard adjustment at first, but you get used to it.
So we're more than a year into this. Are you still remote learning? Or are you in person at all?
I'm still remote learning.
What was the adjustment like for you?
It was pretty hard sitting in front of a computer screen, for 2 hours at a time. But eventually you learn how to pay attention, just like stay off your phone and stuff. Because in person, like the teacher can see you and stuff. So you always put your phone away. But that was hard at first. But
it is so true. I've been on so many Zoom interviews or Zoom classes, and you're like, oh, let me just it's so easy to get distracted. But sometimes too, some of the professors record it. So that kind of helps. There's benefits as well. You can go back and if you missed a portion of the class and re-listen to it. But with that, Bianca, tell us more about the scholarship. And what year are you, by the way?
This is my first year, but I am technically a junior after the semester.
Wow, which means you're super, super, super smart. So what are you studying?
I'm studying mechanical engineering with a specialty in automotive engineering.
And why did you pick that as a major?
Well, all my life, I've been surrounded just by cars and stuff. Like my grandfather worked for GM, my dad does now, and so does my cousin. So I've always been around the automotive industry. And in my high school, I actually was part of the engineering program, which really just reinforced the idea of like building and automotive and just stuff like that.
So as someone, we also know that typically in engineering careers, it's very male dominated. Do you feel like you're kind of going to help bridge the gap?
Yes, I definitely feel like that. at the engineering program at my high school, there was only like 2 other girls when I first started. And as the years progressed and stuff, I think seeing like me and a couple other girls in the engineering program helped other girls decide that like they want to be a part of this too.
We're talking with Bianca Vitale. She is a student over at Oakland University. So tell us more about the award. It's the SMART Award Scholarship. Really hard to get.
Yeah, so the scholarship, it's a long process. So the scholarship is open from August to November, so you apply then. And then you actually have to wait till the spring to find out if you became a semifinalist. And so with the semifinalist, you get interviewed by a couple like of the head departments. And then eventually I believe it was just after Easter when I found out, is when you find out if you got the award or not.
So with this, we should let people know the SMART Scholarship stands for the Department of Defense, Science, Mathematics, and Research for Transformation Scholarship. What went into the application process?
It was just kind of like a regular college application, to be honest. Just a lot of like transcripts and like extracurricular activities you've done, your work experience, stuff like that.
So when did you find out that you won it?
The day after Easter.
So not only do you win the scholarship, which comes with full tuition, it really is designed to try to set you up in life as well. Tell us more about that.
So for every year that they pay tuition, I get a year to work at the Department of Defense. So like this following fall in the winter, I'll have my full tuition paid. And then in the summer, I'll work an internship. And then same thing, I'll go to school for another year and then I'll have an internship. And then I'll go to school for my last year. And then for the next 3 years, I'll work at the Department of Defense as a full-time employee.
So what do you hope to do at the Department of Defense?
I would really like to work on the ground vehicles, just because automotive is like what I want to go into. So I feel like working in that field would definitely be beneficial to me.
So when you say that, what exactly are you talking about for us that aren't in the automotive industry?
Just like designing like the inside of the car, you know, like the axles and all the mechanical aspects that go into building a vehicle.
Bianca Vitale with us here on the Megacast. She's an Oakland University student that was just awarded the SMART Award Scholarship, which is awarded through the Department of Defense. And with that, Bianca, I have to ask, do you know how to change oil? Like you probably know a lot about cars, right?
Not that aspect, but I'm very excited to learn more and more about this.
So with that, what's been the response from your parents knowing that you won this award?
They're very excited. It definitely takes a lot of stress, like financially, off of us. And it's just a huge relief.
And with that too, when we talk about the Department of Defense, it can be a little overwhelming. Were you at first a little nervous?
Yes, definitely. Just because the Department of Defense is like totally up there, and it's just you think of this as like such a cool thing compared to like just like other automotive companies and stuff like that.
So what classes did you have to take in high school, and what classes are you taking now?
I took a lot of AP classes in high school, which definitely helped with you know, like taking gen eds or not taking gen eds and stuff in college. I was part of the engineering program, as I stated before, in high school. And right now, just because I'm a first year student, I took a lot of basic engineering classes. So at Oakland, they actually have a bunch of engineering classes that touch like each of the different aspects of engineering. So like electrical engineering, computer engineering, stuff like that.
So with that, Bianca, what advice would you give to other students, especially high school students?
I would say definitely try to apply for the scholarship, just because it's just such a huge opportunity, especially for STEM students. And definitely just be prepared. Don't wait until the last minute to make any big decisions and stuff like that.
How long did it take you to complete the application?
A couple weeks. It's a long application.
But how many pages?
Definitely a lot. It was online, so it was just like kind of like the Common App, but yeah, it was definitely very long.
So with the scholarship, Bianca, do you have to get a certain GPA?
Yes, you have to have between a 3.0 and a 4.0.
So are you a little bit concerned right now, especially because school looks so different this year?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned, but I'm part of the honors college as well, so I have to keep a 3.5 anyway. And also the teachers are very understanding of how difficult it has been the past couple semesters.
What do you think the future of the STEM world is going to be for females such as yourself? Do you feel like the doors are starting to open up?
Yes, definitely.
Who's a mentor for you?
My engineering teacher, Mr. Scott Mitchell.
And why is that? What does he, how does he mentor you?
He was my engineering teacher back in high school. And back in high school, I was a little more timid and shy just because, it's a male dominated field and I was one of the only girls in the class. And he took the time and made sure I was all right and pushed me to be the best I could be.
That is great. It's so important for people to be able to find those mentors that help lift them up. Bianca Vitale with us here on the Megacast. She is an Oakland University student just getting started on her college career path, but she is getting a lot of help after being awarded the SMART Scholarship through the Department of Defense. Bianca, anything maybe we didn't talk about, any advice you want to give?
I don't think so.
So with that, do you anticipate that you're going to be back in class next year?
I think so.
And how will that change, do you think, for you as a student?
I think it'll definitely be better than learning online, just because it'll be easier to pay attention in class and stuff. But I think it will take away some of the resources, such as the teachers recording their lectures online so you can go back. So you won't be able to do that. But I still think it'll be better than learning online.
What's the test taking been like during this time? When we're talking about engineering, right?
Yeah. It's been all right. I mean, some of the teachers, they've curved the exams and stuff just because it is online and it's hard subjects that we're learning and stuff like that. But overall, it's been all right.
So with that, Bianca, just another minute or two with you before we say goodbye. We do know, have you been able to go to campus at all throughout this past year?
Yes, I've had labs on campus.
So at least you're going in and you're getting some, a little taste of the college, life.
Yes.
What's it been like when you go on campus? What's it been like? And I know that, a lot of the universities are, telling students they'll need to be vaccinated to be able to return to the campus life. What are your thoughts on that?
So far it's been pretty quiet on campus just because everyone's already spaced out and there's not many people on campus already. And I do support the students need to be vaccinated. I know it's a requirement to live in the dorms at Oakland, but I don't believe it's a requirement to be on campus.
Well, it is so great having you with us here on the Megacast. We always like to hear directly from some of the students what this has been like for them, because we know it's been a challenge for people, but yet in the middle of the challenge, you still found out that you won this very prestigious award. Congratulations to you, but also the best of luck too on your college career, but also, in post-college, because does it kind of take a little bit of stress off of you to know that you already have a job after college?
Yes, it's definitely a huge stress reliever.
Right? And trust me, especially when you get to be a senior, you're going to appreciate it even more. So Bianca, again, thank you for your time and congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping, taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Welcome back to the second hour of the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studio, home studio, aka my office, while Tyler holds things down for us back there in West Bloomfield. As so many of you already know, we actually started the show at the very beginning of the pandemic, March 2020. And when Tyler and Dave Scott started it, they thought it would only last 2 weeks, maybe a month. But here we are more than a year into the pandemic, and we are still navigating. Although we're hopeful, we're on the backside of this crisis, and kind of keeping the conversation going with some of our college students. What has this been like for them? Noah Canales joins us now on the Megacast. He's a musical theater student over at Oakland University as well. And Noah, congratulations to you. We know that you also recently won an award. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yes, thank you so much. So I was honored to win through the American Pops Orchestra the Next Gen National Finding the Voices of Tomorrow First Male Play Singer Award. And it was just an amazing voice competition where people were selected across the nation. Hundreds of people applied. And then after several rounds, I was lucky enough to win.
But what is the competition like in the middle of a pandemic? Because were you also kind of auditioning, and I don't know if that's the right word, over Zoom?
Yeah, so in a normal context, they would have had us out in DC after for the final round, but because of COVID shutting everything down, they had to have us send in self tapes where we ended up they sent us tracks of our music that we had, and then we filmed our own videos and submitted those for some final presentation, which was live streamed over YouTube.
So were you a little nervous though? Because the one thing when we're doing things virtually, we know the sound and even the lighting, everything, it's not the same. It's just not the same as in person.
It is absolutely not. And especially there's a whole new aspect of competition when it just comes to, making sure that you have the right quality when you're putting up videos and stuff like that. I'll be very honest, if it weren't for this pandemic, I wouldn't have gone out and, bought new lighting equipment or this microphone right here or just things like that, just to make sure that, things I put out there are high quality and top tier.
See, look at that. You're already getting ready for the next step. How long have you been singing?
Since I could walk, ma'am. Ever since, my mother just heard me singing in the car when I was maybe 5 or 6 one day, and she happened to coach volleyball for some high school team. She was like, "Hey, why don't you sing the national anthem for one of my high school games?" And it's just been happening ever since then, whether it was singing for events or singing in choirs, and now for musical theater.
So with that, I'm wondering too, are you a little nervous because of the pandemic? Broadway is still shut down.
Yes, I am. I'll be frank. I'm glad that I'm not graduating this year. I have another year to go, because I really hope that things do get back to normal. I've seen some articles where some theaters in New York are starting to open up for rehearsals, and they might be showing stuff in September. Please, yeah, I'm hoping for the best once I actually graduate and have to get out there myself.
So with that too, Noah, we're talking with Noah Canales. He's a musical theater student over at Oakland University who just won first place male singer in the 4th annual Next Gen National Finding the Voices of Tomorrow. Have you had to do any of the Zoom musicals that we've seen happening through the pandemic? See, that right there tells the whole story.
Yeah. We the musical that I was in through OU, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. For the first half of rehearsals, we were rehearsing over Zoom. We had our directors trying to teach us tap numbers and dance numbers and working blocking on a stage we haven't even seen yet. And there were some definite bumps in the road, but it was definitely a good learning experience on how to be able to like conduct people. It'd say if we have to do this again in the future, you know?
But with that too, I'm wondering, what was it like? Because we also know when you're facing the camera, it's opposite. So I'm imagining you practicing one way and then you get everyone on stage and you're just bumping into one another.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started. It is, I will admit it was chaos because there was a constant, can you guys hear me? Is that your left hand or your right hand? We got to the point where like our dance director would have to like pull up one pant leg. It's like my left pant leg is always up and there's always a glove on my right hand or something like that, looking like a Just Dance character out of the video game or something. But we worked our way around it.
So with that too, though, Noah, so what is your actual major?
I'm a musical theater major.
So with that, do you hope to take performance to the next level and make it your career? Or are you also looking at the business side of Broadway?
Right now, I definitely love to go into performance. Down the line, way down the line, I would like to teach, once my body gives out on me. But yes, I would like to try my shot at performance, in a higher tier.
So with a magic wand, what's your dream role to play?
Ooh, a go-to for me is Washington on Hamilton, just because we have a similar voice type. I am 6'4", and that height requirement helps. But yeah, I would really like to go for a show like that, especially just because Christopher Jackson, who originated the role, his voice is just amazing, and I find some similarities in my own to his.
Noah Canal is with us here on the Megacast. He's a musical theater student at Oakland University. And Noah, with that too, how does living here in Metro Detroit help you open up some of those doors? Because we've had some pretty big people that have made it big.
Yeah, I think just in terms of living within this area is just the amount of connections that I've been able to establish so far. It's just always about meeting the right people. And even just like through my school, I mean, if it weren't for my voice teacher, telling me about this competition, this interview wouldn't happen. Just stuff like that. But I think that I've learned is just like, being able to like, make sure that you put your best foot forward with every single person that you meet, because you never know who you're talking to,
My stepfather used to always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
That is the key to life and the key to success. And when we're looking at that as well, one thing through the pandemic, it has allowed us to reach out to people that maybe wouldn't have responded before. Have you been able to meet some of those connections via social media or over the internet that maybe you feel like those doors wouldn't have opened prior to this?
Oh, absolutely. I will take you back to this previous summer, right when everything was just super, super shut down. Our musical theater head, Josh Young, was able to, with his connections, coordinate a lot of master classes with tons of Broadway stars who had nothing better to do because shows didn't exist at the time. So I was able to meet one of my idols, Norm Lewis, who first Black Phantom on Phantom of the Opera. Oh my gosh, I was like fanboying the entire time, and I had to sing for him, which was nerve-wracking, but it was definitely a good experience. But we've been able to talk to some really cool people.
So with that, how did it impact you or change your view to hear their personal stories?
It gave me a sense of motivation that I, to be frank, really didn't have for my first few years, because it was like, I'll be honest, I was able to coast just a little bit and get by because of where I was. And when you hear people that are in the profession giving you pointers and saying that, hey, here's the thing, you have the face to do this, but it's what the work that you put in is like whether or not they give those opportunities to you, like that lights a fire. But that was one of the conversations that I was able to have with Norm Lewis after working with him. And just, when people tell you things like that, it's just like, whoa, well, I guess I got to go do that now.
Well, so many times we only see the end result. We don't see the journey from the beginning and the hard work it took them to get where they are today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So with that, Noah, tell us with the scholarship, what does it do for you?
That is going to go straight to my classes. It was just a normal $1,000 check that came in the mail, and I figured the best way to put it is just towards my tuition because I need that right now.
Right. Oh, I will say college is so expensive, more so now than ever.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now after winning the scholarship and being able to be exposed to some of these greats? What do you plan to do in your last, 2 years or last year? Your last year of college, to help prepare you for the harsh realities of trying to make it in the industry?
This summer is the last real summer that I have to just make sure that I have all my stuff together. So whether it comes to, making sure that my body is in like top physical shape. So that's why I want to be able to get into working out this summer consistently. Or just making sure that I'm able to find new competitions to work for during the summer. But I think it's just going to be a summer of self-motivation and trying to make sure that I have things to do and things to improve myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it has been hard because we do know all the local theaters are still closed down right now. So maybe if you're not getting that part in the play to get that experience or that internship.
Oh, if not that, then I have been on Backstage, which is like a casting app for a lot of actors are trying to find work. And there are lots of online musicals, actually. I was just scrolling through yesterday and there was like auditions for, hey, submit a track of this and everything's going to be remotely filmed and you can get paid $5,000 for doing that. And it's just like, oh, wow, I didn't know these things existed. But yeah.
So in some ways, the pandemic could actually help your career and jumpstart your career, but in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah.
So can you talk to us too about how do you use social media? Because the younger generation, such as yourself, we've seen people become stars off of TikTok or Instagram. Are you using social media platforms in any type of way to try to get you to that next level?
Absolutely. I do have a TikTok that I can give later. But I just on that I've been able to amass maybe about 12,500 followers, maybe just from showing videos of me singing or adding on to other people's videos and just collaborating with them. And I've been able to meet a ton of really cool people online that I would have never met. Just the other week, Scott Hoying from Pentatonics, he followed me on TikTok and I was like, what the heck is going on? But just things like that would normally have been impossible to come across.
Right, Pentatonics, they're amazing.
Right.
So with that, you want to be on Broadway, so it's not just the singing, it's the acting and the dancing, it's everything together. So do you think that the last year, have you heard, are they going to do any type of in-person performances there at Oakland University?
I'm willing to bet that they will. I have no actual confirmation, but given the trend of us already having a lot of for example, OU's outside the box performance set, a lot of live shows have already been happening flawlessly, might I add, and it's definitely it's a good sign for what's to come,
So I know that you're still on your journey, but to other high school students maybe that are watching this or that have followed you on TikTok, what advice would you give them, especially on trying to keep motivated in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis?
Especially getting into college, say yes to a lot of things. Say yes to a lot of things, but don't kill yourself trying to do it. What I've noticed is just being able to take as many opportunities, in my case, like as I can, has led to all these connections and led to people being like, hey, I know a person that is capable of doing this and this and this. And once you are able to get your name out there for just reasons like that, it helps. It helps.
Right. I think I read a book once and it talked about what makes people lucky. It's not that they're lucky, it's that they are open to meeting new people and having those spur of the moment conversations and then following up on those conversations as well.
That rings very true.
And, if one thing with COVID-19, we've come to realize we are all connected. So when you meet these people, follow up. Hey, just as a reminder, I met you. You mentioned this. What advice do you have, or something of that nature, or reaching out to people on social media as well. So with that, Noah Canales with us here on the Megacast. He's a musical theater student over at Oakland University. Noah, give us your social media. Are you mainly TikTok, or do you do Instagram too?
I have an Instagram and I do have a TikTok. My TikTok tag is Noah Canales Sings. Yes, and I will be able to drop that in the chat in a second. I will type that in. But yes, if you follow me on there, I do a lot of beatboxing, I do a lot of singing, and sometimes I attempt to be funny. So
So with that too, Noah, for people that maybe just watch a lot of TikToks, but they want to start recording, what advice do you give to them besides have a good camera?
Honestly, just start. I mean, you can put literally anything out there and people will eat it up these days. This generation's humor is so twisted and weird that anything will fly as humor. But for me, I just started doing what I did best. If you find your niche, that's where you have to go. For example, it's for me, it's singing. For other people, it's dancing. But as long as you're able to find your niche and your niche audience, that's what gets you to rise in the numbers, I guess.
It does take you down a rabbit hole, though.
Oh, absolutely. There have been days that I regrettably have spent hours just scrolling on TikTok, and it's embarrassing, but it's happened.
For me, it's the dog videos.
Okay, so that's your For You page. All right.
You start one, then before you know, you're on to another and another and another and another, and it just goes crazy. So
yeah.
Well, Noah, it's been so fun having you on the show. We wish you the best of luck. Before we let you go, can we put you on the spot and tell you to sing something for us?
Sure. Yeah.
Come on, you had to know that was coming.
Yeah. Here. Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing, hallelujah. There we go. I mean, that's something.
That was amazing. We'll definitely, see, that's enough, my dog. We'll definitely see you on Broadway one day, no doubt about it.
Thank you. I surely hope so.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you again for being with us.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, check out Noah on TikTok. Everyone support him. He's local. And congratulations again, Noah, on the scholarship. We'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. Still a lot to get to and the remainder of the show.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. game days with your favorite sports teams, and the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you again for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. As a reminder, if you're unable to catch the entire 2-hour show Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon, we do post the episodes on our website, so civiccentertv.com. Just click on Megacast, or if you just want to listen to an individual interview, you can do so by hitting the on-demand section. With that, throughout the pandemic in the beginning, so many of our rescues were seeing great success as people were stuck at home. They were adopting pets from the shelters. But is that still the case? Joining us now on the show, let's bring in Matthew Pepper. He's the president and CEO for the Michigan Humane Society. Matt, so great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely one of my favorite rescues. How are things going for you and the team right now?
Well, I can tell you, like all of us, we're navigating a difficult environment, constantly looking at ways to evolve our services to better serve the community. We know how essential they are to both the people and the pets of the community. But adoptions, as you sort of alluded to, are really skyrocketing. I mean, pet ownership is a big deal right now, and we're proud to support that.
When in the beginning we were seeing shelters become empty because so many people were adopting pets, I worried that down the line, so many of them would end up back at the shelters. Have you seen that, or has that not been the case?
So actually, we've seen the opposite. We pride ourselves on really a comprehensive process of matching the right people with the right pets, whether you're in a pandemic or at any other time. So we've actually seen a reduction in our return rate. We're seeing people really find a groove with their pets and continue to want to find additional partners for their existing pets and take advantage of the support services we provide, the veterinary care, the enrichment opportunities. And the reality is people are finding lifelong partners right now.
And the good thing is they become really our escape from the COVID-19 crisis. It's a great distraction.
Well, you're 100% correct. So we consider ourselves, even though our work is through the animals, we're really a human-centered organization. And if you think about the pandemic and the feelings of isolation, the stress, and then you think about how much a pet can bring to our life during that time, how much just relief, comfort, love we can get from our pets, clearly the value that we can provide them, they outweigh that value in what they provide us. So I am really incredibly proud of how pets have been elevated in this community during the pandemic.
So with that, and Matt, I should ask too, do you think one of the good things coming out of this, because we are home so much with our pets, we've been able to spend more time with them to try to train them?
So I think you're absolutely correct. I think people are home. People, if you need to get out of the house, what do? You take your dog for a walk. You find a park, you find a trail, you find some people that you're comfortable with that have pets as well. So absolutely, people are home. They're learning their animals a little better, but there's a double-edged sword there. At some point, people are going to be going back to work. And so we need to also make sure that we're preparing our pets for that day when it comes, so that we don't end up having destructive behavior when a condition changes. But what we're seeing is people putting in the time for their pets right now. And it's a great thing to see in this community.
It's now that you mentioned it as well, because we are starting to be not in the home as much as we were once before. And there is a process. What advice do you give to the pet owners out there that maybe adopted a new furry friend During the pandemic, we were home with them all the time, but now we're starting to leave our houses more.
Yeah. So first of all, don't love them any less. Continue to take your dogs for walks. Continue to love them, engage with them, give them their best life, and they'll give you your best life. But as you start to transition back into work, start to give your dog or your cat some time away. Maybe start to acclimate them to when you're back at work, so that it doesn't come as a shock to the system. In reality, dogs and cats even are creatures of habit. And so if you can create some patterns that allow them to be comfortable with the transition when it comes, it's going to work out better for everyone. And if anyone needs help, Michigan Humane is here to support them. We've got opportunities to help give people the right information to help transition smoothly back into the workforce.
That's good to know, because one of the other things, we adopted a new rescue pet right before the pandemic, but then once everything got shut down, we haven't had people into the home like we normally would. So, sometimes too, you see dogs that are showing a little bit of aggression towards people coming into their homes because they're not used to having strangers come over and visit.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. So just like you would acclimate them to time away, you want to start to slowly acclimate them to strangers as they come back into your house again. It all really is about developing patterns, but developing them slowly at a pace that your pets are comfortable with. I'm sure right now my little three-legged Rocky is at home clawing at my door because I'm not there right now. I'm at our Howell facility right now.
So we should point out as well, with the Michigan Humane Society, you've been a part of the community for really decades, but you have different locations. Give us an overview of Michigan Humane and where your centers are and where people can find a pet if they want to.
Yeah, it's actually been a long time. So we actually started in this community in 1877. We're 144 years old, and just a little piece of history about Michigan Humane. When I talk about us as a human-centered organization that focuses on the family through the pets, that's really how we started. So the Michigan Humane Society started as an organization to protect women and children, the subject of domestic violence, and then workhorses. And we actually still do a lot of that work now through training police officers, through working with other health and human service organizations. We're a much more complex organization than one that simply offers a place to adopt, which we do very well. And you can do that at either our Livingston County facility here in Howell. We have a facility for adoption in Westland. We have our Detroit Center. We have our Petco in Sterling Heights, which is a small adoption center there. And then we have multiple satellite facilities throughout the Metro Detroit area through Premier Pet Supply and PetSmart.
So with that, Matt, too, when we think about the Humane Society, we think dogs, but you get other animals. I think I remember doing a story once. You guys had a pig that came in. It was adopted pretty quickly, though.
Yeah. So I just got done looking at a guinea pig, and well, that's kind of a more common other species. We've had tigers, we've had bears, alligators. We get snakes in. So we both do wildlife rehabilitation through our Rochester Hills facility, in addition to other various small animals. At any given time, we could have dozens of rabbits at our facility for adoption, guinea pigs, domestic rats, anything you can imagine, we've been asked to handle at some point. And I will tell you, even if you took away dogs and cats and just looked at the other species we handled, we would still be one of the largest shelters in the state of Michigan.
Wow. Matthew Pepper with us here on the Megacast. He's the president and CEO for the Michigan Humane. So with that too, Matthew, if I can ask you, how are donations going?
Well, right now we're doing very well as an organization. I think it shows how important the work we do is to this community, that people are not going to allow the animals to suffer in this community. The reality is, though, as the pandemic continues to move along, our services have continued to grow in need. So while we've been doing well, there is still incredible need, and that need extends not only to the community, but for the community to step up and support our services. I can give you a great example of our pet food pantry. Historically, we've gone anywhere from 30 to a couple 100,000 pounds of dog and cat food to support families in need. In 2020, we distributed just under 1.1 million pounds to 1,500 families and more than 5,000 pets represented by those families. 70% of them said that if we weren't there, they would have had to surrender their pets. So our job is really to keep families together, but that elevated need requires elevated support.
Wow, that number is really staggering.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's great stories. I mean, the reality is there are some incredible people in Metro Detroit, and we deal with some people who obviously struggle with poverty, but there are some incredible stories of compassion and love, and there is no socioeconomic boundaries to having a passion and a love for the pets that we share our lives with. So we see part of our role is to support families and meet people where they are, to keep families together.
We're hoping that we're on the backside of this crisis, but we're not out of the woods just yet. When it comes to fundraising, are you hoping to be able to pull off some fundraising events in the remainder of this year, or are you going to stick to virtual?
Well, so it's going to be, well, I think we're going to have to be flexible like everyone. I, like everyone, am getting a little stir crazy. I'm ready to see people in person. I'm kind of a hugger, handshaker. So this has been tough for me. So even Zoom, it's hard for me to sit still. I'm kind of a fidgety guy at heart, but I'm ready to be in person. I think we've got our Bow Wow brunch coming in October that we're still hoping is going to be live in Eastern Market. We have some events that are outside that we're sort of gradually back incorporating. Safety. I mean, safety is really important to us, of our staff, of the people who come to our facilities, of our volunteers. We get more than 100,000 hours of volunteer time a year and have almost 250 employees. And if we have an outbreak, it's the animals that suffer. So we have to do everything safely to make sure that we are continuing to be here to serve the community. But we are starting to open up a little bit like the rest of the world in a safe way as vaccinations start to become more prominent and as things start to open up a little bit. But again, always in this environment, we have to be flexible.
So we know that for so many organizations, especially nonprofits, social media has been a lifeline for their organizations to connect with the public throughout the pandemic. How is that side of the house on working for Michigan Humane?
Social media is a great tool of ours to tell our stories. We have some incredible people here who just do a great job of not only performing incredible tasks and creating these miracles in our community, but capturing those stories and being able to tell them to the community. And we are one of those organizations that no matter where your stance is on politics or science or the coronavirus or anything, you have a story about a pet. You have something that you're connected to. So we find ways of using our social media to channel that passion into work that people connect to.
And I will say it just, I mean, that's how we got our dog now. It's like you're scrolling through because, I've joined every rescue group that you could imagine and you stop. And I'm constantly going to my husband, Trixie needs a brother. Trixie needs a sister. And he's
you need me to call him. I can hook that up. I know a guy who can help you.
Right. Hey, so can I ask you, looking at the one side of the house that is not always so pleasant to talk about really is the animal cruelty investigation side. And we know you have an amazing team there and they have one of the toughest jobs. What's it been like for them throughout the crisis?
So first and foremost, that was one of the activities that we committed as an organization to that could not stop. That activity, regardless of what was happening in the community around us, just like local law enforcement, could not stop. We know the correlation between human violence and animal cruelty, and we are committed to creating healthier and safer communities through our work. So we've been busy, but I also want to put that in context. The majority of our work in animal cruelty is education. I look at it two ways. As a former cruelty investigator on the law enforcement side of this work myself, if people don't care, then I want to prosecute them. Then I think we need to look at prosecuting someone. If people don't know, then it's our job as an organization, as a community institution, to help educate people and create change and drive systemic change in that community by creating a better environment for that pet.
So have you seen or noticed an increase in dogfighting rings throughout the pandemic? Maybe people trying to make more money?
Yeah, so we have seen an increase in reported cases, but I would caution because it's a little early to tell whether or not that's more people at home seeing them and reporting them or more actual cases. But we have seen significantly more cases in both cockfighting and dogfighting. And I will tell you that is one activity that we as an organization will never tolerate, and we will prosecute and pursue to the fullest extent of the law. That's one of the vilest forms of cruelty that exists. And we're there to address it. But yeah, it is. We have seen an increase in cases that we've been able to address. Now, those are two different ways to look at it. If it's more people reporting, that's a good problem to have. More people caring in the community is a good thing. If it's more cases, well, then it's something that we have to put our efforts further towards educating and addressing.
Well, I know that in the past, I don't know if you still do, Michigan Humane has worked closely with Detroit police, especially the gang unit, and trying to identify some of the problems with dog fighting. And really it is about, the safety of the pets, because it can be heartbreaking for anyone that's been in the middle of some of those. But I have to ask, one of my favorite shows on Animal Planet was Detroit Animal Cops.
Yeah.
And I know it went away. You can still catch reruns every once in a while. I will say, I think that really put the issue and the work that the team members there at Michigan Humane do on a daily basis and put it on a very high platform for the world to see what you encounter each and every day.
Yeah, and I will tell you, so as the CEO, I get to do these interviews, I get to be the face of the organization, but the reality is there are about 250 people at Michigan Humane who have the same passion I do. Our programs are nothing more than our people, and we have some incredible people here who have a passion for what we do, who have a passion for this community. And while Animal Cops, showed sort of the worst of the city, the reality is Detroit is a great town. And there are some great people there who love their pets. And that's really what we want to focus on. Is the people who we can support because they become our advocates. But you're right, that program elevated our presence in the community, and it elevated the issue, I think, really worldwide.
Well, I think some of the investigators that were a part of the show, they really almost became like rock stars in the community. I've done several stories with them, and you ride along with them. Everyone in Detroit knows who they are, which in return highlights the important work of Michigan Humane. So it's sorry to see it go away, but we always know with production companies, there's always a lot more to it than what we see on the TV screen, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and you can still see a lot of those same people. They still work for us. You can see them on our Facebook videos, YouTube channel, Instagram. We still have video. And what's funny is Debbie McDonald is still with us. She's one of the more recognizable people from Animal Cops Detroit. And while she would say she's not jumping fences anymore, her passion hasn't changed. And she's still doing the same work in Detroit and around the state, educating people, creating advocates. So that was a great show. It inspired me to get into this profession. And just as an aside, you talked about them being celebrities. Anytime you're out in public, people will look at Debbie or Dave McLeod and say, "Do I know you from somewhere?" And you always see her go, "Yeah, you met me. I was on TV. I was on Animal Cops." You remember? She is a celebrity.
Well, but they've seen some pretty horrific scenes in their life, and trying to, again, raise awareness so people understand that, for some people, they say, animal fighting is a hobby. It's a sport. It is not. And these animals that are forced to participate, it's not a pleasant scene. Let's just say that. But with that,
it's not a sport, it's a crime.
Yes, exactly. And we should note too, it is a felony.
Yep.
So with that, Matthew Pepper with us here on the Megacast. He's the president and CEO for Michigan Humane Society. And with that, Matthew, how can people get involved? Are you accepting volunteers again? How can they help?
So we're at our core, we're a community organization, and we don't operate without community support. There's a lot of ways that people can help us. It's obviously we need financial support to keep our programs going. There's opportunities to volunteer. As I said, we had last year over 100,000 hours of volunteer time, whether it's walking dogs or socializing cats or helping us stuff envelopes. It all makes a difference, and it all helps save lives. There's adopting. Look for a chance to adopt, add a pet to your family. Fostering is a big one for us right now. Many of the animals that we take in are either medically or behaviorally under some sort of rehabilitation. Best place for them to do is at home, not in the shelter environment. So fostering, and generally being a voice for animals and for our organization in your community is one of the best things you can do. Be an advocate, be an example, and be loud as you support our work and the pets in the community.
Matthew Pepper with us here on the Megacast. Anything else maybe I didn't touch on that you want to add before we say goodbye?
Just that if you're thinking about adding a pet, now's the time. And the reality is the work that we do is broader than just that of the pets. It impacts the quality of life of everyone, public health, public safety. I mean, we know how much money we spend on our pets. It can drive the economy. We're a critical part of this community, and we need your support to continue this work for the next 144 years.
Wow, thank you. You've done so much work in the past 144 years. Matthew Pepper with us, Michigan Humane. Please support them. You can go onto their website, their social media. Just be warned, all those little puppy dogs looking at you with those big eyes, you're going to get sucked in. So even if you donate, that is a great way, or volunteer your time as well. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we're going to be shifting the conversation just a little bit to talk about marketing throughout the pandemic. This is the Megacast.
Finally, I just got my COVID-19 vaccine.
I registered with my local health department and they called me.
I got mine at the pharmacy and my neighbor got hers from the hospital.
I'm not a techie person, so I called the COVID hotline and they helped me schedule an appointment.
Get vaccinated with the first vaccine you can. Protect us all.
Learn more at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping, taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. As a reminder, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. You can catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have cable, thank you. A portion of your fee helps support programming such as this. You'll catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And we are also live streaming today's edition of the Megacast on our Facebook page. You know, with so many of us working from home right now, I've been wondering, what has it been like for outdoor marketing, the billboards? Not so many people seeing them as once before, but has that changed how the industry is operating? Lauren Van Haren joins us now. She's a marketing and communications manager for Brooklyn Outdoor. Lauren, great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You have one of the coolest backdrops.
Yeah, you know what? This is our office. So, I mean, kind of gives you a little sneak peek of what we do with the hand-painted murals behind me.
That is so cool. So for those not familiar with the company, give us a little bit of history on Brooklyn Outdoor.
So we are a Detroit-based out-of-home advertising company, which prior to joining the company, I really didn't know much about out-of-home sales, which is basically any kind of advertisement that you see outside of your home, especially billboards is our main ad.
So, what's it been like from an industry standpoint throughout the COVID-19 crisis with so many people not driving near as much as they once did?
I mean, to be honest, it totally flipped our industry upside down.
Because
But
who would ever imagine, right? No way.
I mean, it changed a lot of industries, and for out of home, it was definitely interesting in the fact that people were not leaving their homes. And especially for myself, I manage all of the marketing, so it was kind of hard to, not kind of, I'm downplaying that, hard to advertise for wanting people to see ads outside of their home, but also, wanting to be a part of keeping everyone safe. So, it was definitely a tricky time.
We almost needed a maybe a platform that was, or a marketing slogan that was like, just go for a Sunday drive. Don't get out of your car. Just go for a Sunday drive.
I mean, the industry didn't die, but it changed the way that we marketed. So people were still leaving their homes, but it was with more like of an intention to buy. Like, you're leaving to run to the grocery store, you're leaving to run to the drugstore to get something. So instead of, more trying to target people on like big freeways and stuff, we were moving ads closer to where people live.
And how do you do that from like a logistics standpoint? Because a billboard is one thing, but how do you take it to a smaller venue? Like, I don't even know. I'm thinking more like, benches at the bus stop, maybe.
We're very fortunate in that aspect because a lot of our inventory is those smaller formats that you see. We do have like bus benches here in Detroit. We're the sole advertiser for Mogo bike share, so very community driven, very close to home. And throughout the last year and a half, we've actually been working with DDOT to install 59 bus shelters throughout the city. So, with that, we were definitely able to reach people closer to their homes.
So I will say over the years, I think billboards have gotten much better, especially the ones like they change, and I'm guessing that's the technology, a change in the technology.
Yeah, it's been a big change. So, traditional billboards are the oldest format of advertising, and they're not going away. But especially throughout the pandemic, utilizing digital advertising has really been something because, we can change it within like a matter of minutes. And throughout the pandemic, you have to be very careful with your messaging, so, the advance in technology has been a huge help for us.
So with that, have you had to change as well the industries that you target? Because people aren't going to concerts, we're not going to ball games, but we are buying groceries.
We've actually seen a lot more of like business to business messaging, and a lot of communication shifting towards like, hey, we're still here. The grocery store is on this exit. So instead of more maybe promoting sales, it's been a lot of community driven messaging, or just letting people know like, hey, I'm here, I'm a resource.
So with that, we're speaking with Lauren is it Heron or Haran?
Van Heron.
Van Heron. She's the marketing and communications manager for Brooklyn Outdoor. And with that, Lauren, we hope that businesses, everyone's had to pivot and shift throughout the pandemic. Because of that, has your company and the business industry found any silver linings in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, we did. It brought us back to our roots when we're working as sales consultants to direct our clients and make sure that they're making the best informed choices that they can make. So it really brought us back to the data. And, like you said earlier, people aren't driving as much, but we're able to track that through our measuring tools and see people actually moving. And I think it really brought us back to the core of using data to drive decisions.
And with that, when you're working with businesses, budgets can be tight, although we know some businesses are actually thriving throughout the pandemic, but for a lot of them, that bottom line can be tight, and advertising typically seems to be one of the first areas a company will cut their budget, but we also know in the middle of a crisis, you need to be able to try to reach as many people. So what have those conversations been like with some of your clients to convince them you need to keep your advertising budget now more than ever?
Yeah, it is, in advertising, marketing, communications, all of that is usually the first one to go in a budget. But data actually really shows that companies who continue to market through a recession or through a pandemic actually fare weather when they come out. I mean, if you think of, if all of your competitors stopped marketing, but you did, you're the face that's on the horizon. And like I said earlier, instead of stopping all advertising, it's really just saying you want to be where the people are when they're making the purchase, where they're informed. So it's just really about making smarter choices.
So what do you think the long-term impact is going to be on this industry?
Actually, it's been really interesting. I mean, 2020 was not good for us, to say the least, but we're actually having one of the best years that we've ever had. And I guess I would say that ad dollars have been maybe pushed to 2021 that were, relocated from 2020. And it also is kind of like, you had the Great Depression and then you had the Roaring 20s. I think it's, a setback is a setup for a comeback. And, people are ready to get out there and get out of home, as we would say.
Right. That is so true. Everyone is definitely feeling the fatigue of the pandemic. How much do you think it's going to also help your industry and your business once the state's restrictions on office work is lifted, as more and more people start to go back to the offices?
Well, we're in sales, so a lot of human connection, even just in like building relationships, like internally making sales, is going to be huge for us. I mean, that part of human connection doesn't go away through the recession, and I think we're all missing it. And I think that's something that's specifically going to really drive our industry forward.
I went to Detroit the other day, and I'm so used to those bottlenecks of knowing where, that pinch point is that you're going to be stuck in traffic. And it was really weird not to be stuck in traffic on the highway as you're traveling some of these places. I will say, I guess we're going to be going into construction season, because when it comes to seeing a billboard, you notice it more so when you're stuck and you're forced to look around.
Yeah, you must have not taken 75.
So no, I didn't. I took Woodward. So with that too, it is a construction season can be a good thing for your industry. Do you guys ever look at that, like where the big construction projects are going to be, to place billboards along that route?
I mean, that's a smart thing. We definitely should be looking at construction, but we definitely do look at traffic flows and the amount of time that people are, when traffic's halted, you definitely get a lot more visibility. It's, there's a thing about repetition is impressions, but the time that people are viewing it definitely makes an impact.
So with that, Lauren, as well, do you help clients with their messaging as well?
We can and we will. So we're not so much on the agency side, would more help with the creative messaging. We're kind of we help you place it. So this, whether it's our owned inventory, we have a space, you have a message, we're going to inform you on the best possible place to put it.
Lauren Van Haren with us here on the Megacast. She's the marketing and communications manager for Brooklyn Outdoor. I know that you have satellite offices, not just here in Detroit, but LA and Chicago. What's it been like to try to navigate this in other states as well?
Well, specifically in Los Angeles, it's been a little tricky. I mean, it's, with their population, it's no surprise that COVID has hit really hard there. So, I mean, the traffic patterns in all different cities and restrictions are, something that we've been having to navigate. And we have a really strong team, with the people who are working in those other cities. But as far as, external forces, it's something that we consistently have to keep a pulse on.
So with that, Lauren, what advice would you give to maybe a recent college graduate looking at going into this industry? Is now a good time or should they wait?
I think it's a great time. As I was mentioning earlier, everybody's like getting back to their roots and, as far as making smart choices, informed choices, I think that, moving forward, everybody in the industry is really excited to feel back alive. And I definitely would recommend it. Advertising, even throughout the pandemic, we're not going anywhere. And I didn't know how much I would enjoy out of home until I was in it.
Right. Well, that's good. So with that, Lauren, too, anything maybe I didn't touch on that you want to share about Brooklyn Outdoor before we say goodbye today?
Yeah, I mean, one of the really cool aspects about Brooklyn Outdoor is that we're a woman-owned and predominantly woman-operated company, which is something that's really different. In the advertising world, it can kind of tend to be like an old boys club. And, from our company, we do offer like a very fresh perspective and, unique take on it from that aspect. And we're actually hiring right now. So for those recent college grads or people with industry experience, shoot me an email.
See, I love that. Girl power, activate.
Yeah. We're all about it.
Well, Lauren, it's been great having you with us here on the Megacast. We appreciate your time. And also, again, who did the mural behind you? Do you know the artist?
Yeah, so we actually have two behind us. So the one on this side, this is from Wheezy. And this one on this side is Michelle Tangway. So they're two women, again, local muralists. You can actually, in Eastern Market, see a collaboration mural between the two, which is really cool.
The thing I love about what's happening at Eastern Market is they're no longer, it's not so much the illegal graffiti, because you would have an amazing piece of work and then someone would come and take over it. And now, because so much of it is that sanctioned art, there seems to be a respect amongst that the artist group to let an individual's work shine. And I think that's such a great thing, because Eastern Market is highlighting the talent that we have here throughout Detroit and beyond.
Actually, I'm really happy that you brought that up. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Murals in the Market Festival, but last year it didn't happen because of COVID, but for the previous 5 years, there's been like an outdoor mural festival, interactive festival that brings talent from locally here in Detroit, all over the US, to create these murals throughout the market. And we're actually one of the founding sponsors. So it's a good thing to be a part of.
Oh, that's great. So do you anticipate it's going to happen this year?
I haven't heard the word. I'm hoping so. I mean, restrictions are constantly changing with COVID, and especially outdoors as, has been opening up. So, we're hopeful. I would love to.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Well, Lauren, thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Again, it says Brooklyn Outdoor. If you want to find more, you can go to their website. And again, they're looking for someone to join their team. If you're talented and eager, please consider Brooklyn Outdoor. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast before we wrap it up for the day.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. game days with your favorite sports teams, and the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful, because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
In times like these, we have to believe in each other.
And we believe that you'll do the right thing.
When it comes to stopping the spread of COVID.
Follow the 3 W's.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Watch your distance. And when it's your turn to get the vaccine, take your shot.
It all comes down to the golden rule.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
We're so close, Michigan.
We can do this together.
We want to say thank you to everyone for hanging out with us on this Thursday for the Megacast. As always, we like to also remind you, because we know maybe you don't have 2 hours Monday through Friday to hang out with us, but you can catch individual episodes of the Megacast. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on Megacast, and there you'll find the episodes going all the way back to the beginning, March of 2020. And then if you just click on the on-demand section, you can also watch some of the individual interviews. Hey, Tyler, just as a reminder, it's Mother's Day this weekend.
It is. Yes, this is Mother's Day this weekend. So everybody hopefully has some plans in place to celebrate with their mother safely, if your mother and you are both vaccinated, or in other ways as well. We've figured out so many different ways to celebrate different occasions with our families and with our friends over the last year or so while we've been in this pandemic. And hopefully everybody out there that is a mom that's listening to our show has a very nice weekend and a nice Friday as well. And hopefully we'll be part of your nice Friday tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
I hope the weather gets back. It's been some blah this week.
It has been. It's been very disappointing. It's been chillier this week. Not really like dreary and gray and all that too much, but it's just been a little chillier. And we got all that excitement with the summerish weather the last couple of weeks. Bring a little more of that back, please, Mother Nature.
And so just as a hint to all the men out there, maybe if you don't have the 2-legged babies, but you have 4-legged babies, women still want a Mother's Day gift from their pet.
Of course they do.
Wait, see, I'm helping out relationships all across Metro Detroit.
I mean, that's what we do here, Ronnie. That's we're trying to help people out. We're trying to keep them informed. You know what they need to know. They need to know. Listen, they're not just a mother for your kids. They're a mother for your pet too.
Well, look, right? Trixie's she's a full-time job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We heard a very strong opinion from Trixie earlier on. She really enjoyed Nora Canellis and his performance here.
Right. I was like, at least if you're going to bark, go ahead and do it during the Humane Society episode, right? Interview.
Right. That's your segment. Why not, right?
Oh, she is definitely a handful. Let's just say that. But she is fun.
Oh, yeah.
She's fun. We've never had a big dog before.
No. Well, now you know.
Exactly. But pets are children too.
They are.
For children. So all the guys out there, just remember, maybe pick up some flowers for the pet parents, pet moms as well. Get some brownie points this weekend.
Absolutely.
That's going to wrap it up for us. So we'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early. Of course, as always, thanks to Larry and Jake behind the scenes as well, and Tyler for being our superhero and getting the show on the air each and every day. This has been the Megacast.